Hi everybody, today's video is about mindfulness. Now mindfulness itself is about sounds, sights, tastes, smells, your thoughts, your feelings and your mind. Mindfulness is good for our well-being, and if you're suffering with your mental health, it's very good and beneficial too with that. Now how many of us I should say, go throughout our day doing our day-to-day things and sometimes may drift off a little bit. It may seem like you are focusing on what you're doing, but the subconscious mind, you drift off a little bit, as in when you're eating your meals. How many people are sort of thinking what they're going to be doing next? Maybe, it's become a very busy world, and also a fearful world as well. So the benefits of mindfulness, so beneficial when it's something that don't come natural to us. It's something that we have to learn and practice along the way. By learning and practicing, it helps with your concentration. You become more confident within yourself. You've become positive within yourself and positive with the things you do. It makes you feel a little bit more happier within yourself too. It's very good for like with education, sports, as in your performance is better with sports, education and learning. So that's very beneficial too. Now mindfulness, like I said, is what I've just said, but it's all about the present moment, the here and now. What's going on here and now, like with this is a sofa that I'm sat on. You can feel it, touch it, you can feel it, you can see it. Just for example, quite often, like if you're suffering with your mental health, if you have a mental illness, quite often it can become very taxing with your thoughts, drifting away, going out there a little bit, with your thoughts, with your feelings and emotions. You become inwardly, the in world. So with mindfulness, it helps you to put away from that inner world. It can help with tough situations that you're in, stress. It can help with the suffering and the pain. The tough situations that you may occur that causes the suffering and the pain, that added on top, like the stress, your anxiety, fear, anger. It can help with all that, but at the end of the day, it takes time and it takes practice, and it's beneficial for all of us, for our well-being too, to be mindful on what we do throughout the day. Say for example, I'm going to give a few examples here that being mindful with. So sounds and sights. Let's go for sounds and sights first. So if you're out on a daily walk, how many people just may go out on their walk and not really notice things, just focusing on your walk basically, and not focusing on what is actually going on in the world. Like I said, sound, sights, like things you can see, like things you notice, things you become more aware of and notice, like hearing the birds singing as you're going along. You may be in a park hearing the birds singing. You may see a squirrel come past you. How many people sometimes may just walk straight past that squirrel and not really notice it? We can all do it. We can all just drift off. So that's sounds, sights. Like when we're eating a meal, how many of us may be eating that meal and not actually focusing on the taste of it, the smell, just eating it, and probably drifting off a little bit with what we're going to do next, like the washing up afterwards. How it's like being focused on. It's all about being focused on what you're actually doing, and it helps. Like I said, it helps with your concentration a lot. Because sometimes because what happens is when you drift off, you've lost that bit of concentration on what you're doing. So it can build on your concentration and like your confidence. And the benefits of it is to practice it with your day-to-day things that you do, like bring in that mindfulness and practice it. So that's for your well-being as well. And for somebody that is suffering with a mental illness, it could be, like I said, very beneficial, because quite often you get drawn inwardly with your thoughts, your feelings and emotions, and it's quite easy to get drawn to the badness, the not so good things that go on. It's like a magnet, it sticks there. You know what I mean? So it's quite easy to get drawn to that, and sometimes it's quite difficult to pull away from it. You know what I mean? It's a natural thing, like with the anger, all the added on top. So once you start practicing mindfulness, like with your thoughts, let's just say with your thoughts, you get drawn into with your thoughts. Sometimes you have to sit like with something, with an illness, more severe illness like schizophrenia, you have to, when you have to go past that psychosis stage, you have to go get the therapy started first before you can even start to practice the mindfulness. Because the thing is, with schizophrenia, you have to start to understand it a bit more yourself, and to realise yourself that those thoughts that you're experiencing, and maybe voices, the delusional thoughts, the paranoid thoughts. So, you have to realise that isn't real. You have to understand it a bit more. But even when you start to understand it and realise that all that, what is going on, it's not really, my mind is confused. It's gone into confusion mode. It doesn't know what to do in a situation. So it creates a bit of confusion there. And the imagination starts to, as they say, run a bit wild, that takes you out of that reality. And that's with schizophrenia. That is what is basically out of touch with reality, is with your thoughts, your feelings, the voices. So once with schizophrenia, I will mention schizophrenia in case there's somebody out there that may at some point, somewhere along the line, may want to try it. So you go through, and once you pass the therapy stage of it, and everything else, and you start your journey and you find coping strategies that's going to help you. Mindfulness will be very good and beneficial to draw you back from that non-reality. When you slip at the relapses, if you get relapses, it can be very beneficial to pull you back out of it. And with your coping strategies on top, alongside it, it will help with those coping strategies as well. The mindfulness, it make you feel a bit more positive, like I said, concentration, beneficial, and it make you feel like to persevere with it as well. So that was I just wanted to mention like the more severity ones, but in general, like even with other mental health problems, take for example depression, anxiety, say health anxiety, googling up is hypochondria. You need to draw away from that. Draw away from, a lot of people create problems like symptoms within themselves. And sometimes it's looking up things like on the internet, and that in itself just creates a lot of like the thinking, the thoughts, and making the anxiety feel worse. So it's good for anxiety, depression. How do we feel in depression? We go within ourselves, our thoughts, our feelings and emotions. It's very good to bring you out into the inner world by pulling away from that. Like, say for example, your feelings and emotions. Now, if you've holding back from your feelings and emotions, the fear sets in around it. And then what happens is, when you start to feel a bit of a shift with your feelings and emotions, that fear's there. So it creates a negative. And that's why sometimes we hold back and not let those feelings and emotions run through. So the mindfulness in itself will turn it, you turn it into what you reverse it into that it's something good, not bad. When your feelings and emotions arise, it's good. So when you feel good and positive, it's a bit easier to feel those emotions and feelings, and it just makes you feel a bit more confident within yourself. So yeah, your normal everyday, we can all do it. We can all be practice mindfulness. Like I said, it doesn't come naturally, but it's very beneficial for our well-being. And if you're suffering with mental health problems, it's just something that you have to try and practice, learn. It may take a little while to do. Sometimes it may feel like you just can't do it, but it's all about being patient and persevering with it, because practice it daily with your daily things, because the more you do it, it becomes a habit. You have to create a habit of doing it and being mindful, and you will see along the line how beneficial it is. Some people, it may take longer than others to learn it. We all learn in different stages. We all heal in different stages. It's like people suffering with their mental health. Some people might heal quicker than others, but it's all possible to heal and recover from a mental illness as well. And mindfulness is possible and beneficial for our well-being and our mental health too, because it pulls you away. It keeps you, what it does, it keeps you in the present moment. Sometimes you might feel like drifting off. Sometimes you might even not realise the subconscious mind you just drift off, and it's always to something that relates to you. And it's a lot of the time, like I said, we draw to things like what causes the pain and suffering more easily than the good stuff. It's easy to draw to the bad things that causes stress, anxiety, all the added on top. It's like it sticks there, and sometimes if it pulls you to it, it can cause a lot of, once you're in it, sometimes it can cause a lot of overthinking, because you're stuck there. It's like you're trying to put away. So it will help with your overthinking about a situation as well. It's so much benefit from it to try practicing mindfulness. Like I said, the sound, sights, taste, smells. When you practice with your emotions, your feelings, just keep, whatever is causing you a problem, if it's your emotions, your feelings, you start to create kindness, friendliness towards it, rather than the hate and the anger, resentment, the blame, everything else that literally adds on top. It creates a bit more kindness, friendliness towards it. And once you conquered that, you've got that, it's a lot easier to cope with. And I'll just give you a quick example before I go, because what it does, it has a reverse effect, and what it does, it causes you have less interest in what's going on with your mind, your body, the confusion there, and more interested in, the outer. There's another tip as well that you can do, perhaps when you're out on a walk. We've all got phones, try taking some pictures. If you see some little squirrels, the different types of trees, you may even come across some flowers. It just focuses you into what you're doing as well, and away from the inner. So before I go, a prime example, my partner, now obviously this lockdown, it's been tough for us all. He went through a real bad spell, scales 10s, out there kind of thing. Now I talked to him through it, talking to him. Sometimes it's hard to talk to someone when they're like that. You've got to have a bit of a knack to it. And I just turned around and said something that flipped it and it just pulled him back basically to what he was experiencing. And that simple thing was, I just turned around and said, imagine like the illness is negative, it's all negative. And once you feed negative, it creates a big confusion there. It adds on more things, and the more it's added on, the more worse you're feeling. And I just turned around and said to him, because my partner, he does a lot of mindfulness and he's found it very beneficial. He's been doing it for a while now, a long time, and it helps with his illness, and he suffers with schizophrenia, and he's found it very beneficial. And I just turned around and I said to him, so go at it a different angle. Kindness, forgiveness, you've practiced that mindfulness. Go kindness towards it rather than hatred. And it worked. It brought him out of how he was feeling. And plus as well, he has got coping strategies as well. So I wanted to mention that because it's a prime example that mindfulness is very beneficial even to those that are suffering with more severe illness. It's just that you have to pass through the first stages, and once you start your recovery and everything, it's very beneficial. So I'm going to end the video there. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please share this video because it can help somebody or someone out there. And give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe too.